afternoon, and thank you for joining our last session for the day, focusing on the upcoming call for EIT Culture and Creativity, our new knowledge and innovation community in the area of culture and creative sectors and industries. I am Caterina Sereti, and I will be your host for the next 45 minutes. EIT Culture and Creativity is the first kick to be established under the new EIT strategy. This is an exciting moment for all of us here at the EIT. Currently, the European Commission has several tools in place to support the culture and creative industries and sectors, including funding programs such as Creative Europe, Horizon Europe, or Erasmus+, actions related to legislation and overall regulatory framework, but also collaboration with EU member states and more. So one may ask, why do we need EIT Culture and Creativity? The new kick comes as an additional piece in the puzzle of the overall EU support towards the culture and creative industries and sectors. It really comes to complement the existing landscape, and even more. It covers an identified gap, as it will focus on innovation, but also promote collaboration between business, research, higher education, both currently missing from the puzzle. Today's session is a continuation of the first information webinar about the new call organized by the EIT in April. The discussion back then was focused on the idea behind the EIT innovation model and how it could benefit the culture and creative sectors and industries. We presented the indicative roadmap for the call, highlighted what this kick is about and what is new, while it also marked the launch of a networking platform for organizations interested to form consortia and prepare for the call. Today, we're very happy to see that we have around 270 organizations from 37 countries registered in the platform. Our discussion today will be about the call criteria and selection process. You will soon find them in the EIT website in the dedicated page for the new call. But today, here, you have the chance to hear and discuss about them with my two competent colleagues, Martin Herzeg, Head of Unit for Strategy and Impact, and David Tas, Head of Unit for Innovation Communities. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to Martin for his presentation and invite you to raise your questions through the chat so that we can use them at the end of the discussion to respond. And also, if we're not able to use them, to respond to all of them by the end of the day, please rest assured that we will use them in the frequently asked questions page in the EIT website. So Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Caterina, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you on the joyous day for the EIT. I'm here today with my colleague David, and together we'd like to actually introduce the draft criteria for the upcoming call that Caterina has mentioned to you already. Before I start giving you this short overview though, let me just stress why the EIT consider this culture and creative sectors and industries one of the biggest and unique strengths of Europe. If you allow me, I'll start sharing a small presentation as well. One second. I hope you get the slides now. So basically, we strongly believe that culture inspires us to innovate, and its potential is enormous. It's therefore critical to support these sectors and the industries by creating new opportunities for innovation, education, business creation, and acceleration. This will power the next generation of innovators and creatives across Europe. And this is why the EIT comes in. So I would like to make a systemic investment into the CCSI sector, meaning we want to drive innovation, entrepreneurial education, business creation, and acceleration, again, in order to develop the full potential of these sectors and industries. So the new kick will actually connect innovation value chains at the local, regional, national, and EU levels. It will help regions to innovate and increase their competitiveness, break down barriers to innovations across sectors and disciplines. It will power new ventures, accelerate new technologies, and facilitate digital transformation. Empower the next generation of cultural creative innovators by equipping them with much needed entrepreneurial skills. So now we are getting ready to launch the kick call, and the call will open in late October this year. I will show you in a minute the final timeline as well. So actually the innovation model that you have already seen throughout this day, very, very surely, is stemming from the EIT innovation model, connecting the knowledge triangle actors, businesses, education, and research. So the new kick will also connect innovation value chains But it is very important to emphasize that the innovation model of the EIT, which combine these three key ingredients, again, business, research, and education, will have to be the backbone of the new KIC in the culture and creative sectors and industries as well. So we provide the innovators with the tools they actually need, but not predefined support. We'll measure the success through the impact on the societal challenge, in this case, of course, on the culture and creative industries, on the number of new innovative products and services brought to the market, the entrepreneurs that we have trained and go on to become successful innovators. So this new KIC, just like the previous existing 8 knowledge and innovation communities, will be about achieving impact on a very important societal challenge. So looking at the final indicative roadmap, where we are now in June, and very, very soon, upon the final approval from the governing board of the EIT, we are going to publish the final set of the co-evaluation criteria and the process. This is literally a matter of weeks or more actually days. And then later on in September, we will publish a paper, EIT Innovation Model paper, which will help you, guide you applicants to better understand the EIT model and what is expected for you. Again, as said, we'll then open the calls for applications on the 26th of October. We'll run a large number of info seminars on internet, obviously, and the call will be open until the 24th of March 2022. So that's going to be the closure date for the call of proposals. Then we at the EIT, with external experts, governing board members, according to the criteria, are going to evaluate the proposals, and the designation of the new KIC is going to happen on the 22nd of June in 2022. With all processes closed, we are going to prepare then a startup grant agreement with this new winning consortium. David.
Good afternoon also from my side, and well, thank you for staying with us the whole day, and I hope you will be with us with this very last but very pertinent presentation about the call for the new KIC, what Marton introduced. So what we'll do in the next 15 to 20 minutes with Marton, we will present in a very structured way the set of different criteria which will govern the whole selection and designation of the new KIC, and we will make sure that there is sufficient time left at the end for your questions. It is very important to remember that whilst we are ready, we have the very major drafts ready, however, they are still pending approval from our governing board. So that's why today we will present you the substance, which will not change. So we have the evaluation criteria, the technical evaluation criteria, and so on, but we will not speak about scores and weighting. They will be incorporated in the call text, which, as Marton mentioned, will be published very soon. So I suggest that we dive into the first set of criteria, which is about admissibility. Admissibility criteria, to be honest, that's not specific to the EIT, not specific to the KICs, or not specific to the new KIC call. This is very common for any grant scheme run by the EU. So I'm sure that many of you have already applied, so then you are quite familiar with this set of criteria. So basically it means that you have to submit, or the applicants have to submit, a complete application by the deadline via a dedicated tool. We will use the Commission EIT systems, the Commission EIT tools. There's a dedicated tool to manage applications, the so-called SEP system. So this is where you will have to submit your application by the deadline. All the templates will be embedded in the system. All the mandatory fields will be clearly indicated. And this is a strong advice. This is not subject of admissibility or exclusion, but we kindly invite you, if possible, to submit your applications in English. However, if you submit in another language, it can be accepted, but in this case, we may ask for a translation of specific documents. Then the second set of criteria is about eligibility. Again, for any kind of applications and grant schemes, you have eligibility criteria, but this time, or in this case, this is customized to the EIT, to the KICs, and to the KIC model. This is very much about the number and composition of the consortium members who can submit a proposal. It's a typical multi-beneficiary proposal, so we expect to have a coordinator and then the members of the consortium, and each team or each consortium shall be composed minimum 30, maximum 50 independent partner organizations. Recurring question, whether there can be natural persons. No, these are legal persons, legal entities, independent legal entities. And again, this is at the proposal stage and at the designation stage. Of course, once there is a new KIC designated, the partnership can evolve, the partnership can grow. However, there is this limitation of maximum 50 independent partner organizations at proposal stage based on lessons learned from the past. Then there are some geographical diversity related criteria that these organizations shall be established in a minimum 3 different member states. Here the emphasis is on the member states. Of course, there can be consortium members from other countries too, for example, Horizon Europe associated countries. However, at least 3 different EU member states have to be represented, and at least 2/3 of the applying organizations in the consortium should be from different member states. And very important is you have heard a lot today about the knowledge triangle. This is very much in the heart of our model, the knowledge triangle integration. So we need at least 1 higher education institute, 1 research institute, and 1 private company. To be honest, I don't think that this is a very, very difficult or hard threshold, but I think that's, well, it's very crucial to bear in mind all these eligibility conditions. And then the last more administrative set of criteria is about the exclusion criteria. I will not spend a very long time on that. It's based on the EU finance regulation. Again, this is not specific to the EIT or to the KICs. This is described if you can search for the EU finance regulation, and you can look into the relevant articles. It's article 136 and 137, where this is described what conditions can lead to exclusion of applicants, like bankruptcy, insolvency. We listed some of them: grave professional misconduct, fraud, corruption, and so on and so forth. At the proposal stage, you need to make a declaration. It's based on a template. It will be incorporated in the system. So you declare declaration of honor that you are not in these conditions and there is no conflict of interest. And then once a winning consortium is selected, then you will have to provide additional documentary evidence. Very important that only those proposals who are passing the admissibility, eligibility, and exclusion checks will pass to the next stage. And what is the next stage is to check the financial capacity of the applicants. Again, this is rather common or very common for all EU grants, as this is regulated in the EU finance regulation. This is to ensure that there is sufficient liquidity on the short term and solvency on the medium term. And well, profitability doesn't mean that that the consortium shall be profitable, but at least should ensure a self-financing capacity. Again, there is a great tool provided by the EU systems, EU institutions. The link will be provided as part of the call, and you can check. Very important to mention that this refers always to the coordinator of the consortium, so you can check easily via this tool. You have to enter some parameters, and then it will assess the financial viability of the coordinator. Or if you have applied recently to a project, EU project or EU grant scheme, the coordinator, and received a positive assessment that can be used too. And in case the capacity is weak or insufficient, it doesn't lead to an automatic exclusion, but there must be some mitigating measures which are in place, like replacing the consortium leader or additional monitoring or reporting obligations. and public bodies, international organizations are exempted from this capacity check. So I will stop here and then we will carry on with Martin.
Yes, thank you, David. So the next set of criteria is so-called operational capacity criteria. This is already a bit more specific to the EIT's requirements, because here we are checking basically two things. So one will be the coordinator's familiarity, proven familiarity, which always means we need references, that the coordinator has participated in at least one project with a total budget exceeding 3 million euros and coordinated at least one project with at least 2 other partners from at least three different European countries. So this is again stemming up on the criteria David has mentioned, but we need to get evidence on such aspects. In terms of the capability and the necessary experience of the key members of the interim management team, the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, the Chief Operational Officer, COO, and the Chief Financial Officer, the EIT and the governing board will also define certain criteria, such as predefined work experience relevant to the position, so number of years. This is to be finalized. Work experience, again, with number of years in the COLS thematic field for most of the chief officer level positions, and work experience in an international environment, so including implementation of international projects. So these will be, all independent from the technical evaluation criteria, which then the EIT will conduct with the help of several independent external experts. When it comes to these, we have 3 sets. So the first set is about excellence. The 3 sets are actually coming from the Horizon Europe regulation, but then the EIT and the governing board is further tailor-making, customizing, adjusting these criteria to the needs of the EIT. So within this first criteria, we shall have 3 sub-criteria. The first one is strategic approach. Here we are going to evaluate the relevance, the specificity, and the added value of the strategic approach. So aiming at excellence and proposed focus within the theme. Here it's very important, of course, that the EIT provides a very broad room for the individual applications and applicants to further define within the societal challenge what they deem most relevant is, how they will approach this with the, of course, the EIT model, and how the consortium strategy can be ensure that it's going to become a sustainable, institutionalized European partnership. The second sub-criteria here is innovation potential, so about the consortium's potential to implement the future KICS strategy, demonstrated by the combined quality and commitment of the partners, including SMEs, by forming a diverse, balanced, collaborative, and world-class excellent partnership to improve the innovation capacity of the local ecosystems. Here, it's also extremely important that according to the new strategy of the EIT, according to how we are moving forward with the EIT Regional Innovation Scheme, you may have just heard it from colleagues in the previous panel. It is also very important that these elements are taken into account when designing the strategic approach and answering to the call as well. Last but not least, the third sub-criteria under excellence is synergies, to demonstrate added value and readiness to establish concrete synergies, and complementarity is positioning the future KIC towards other relevant public, private, and third sector initiatives, both at EU level, but also at member states and other levels.
Yes, the second block under the technical evaluation criteria is about quality and efficiency of implementation. And under this block, we have 2 sub-criteria. One is about operations, and the second one is linked to KIC business model and financial plan. Under operations, it's very important that at the proposal stage, you already you already propose a governance model and the management model and the operational model for the potential new KIC. Very important that the EIT has established some good governance principles. They will be described as part of the call text. So very important that also already from the beginning you take into account the good governance principles, and you propose a model, a governance model and an operation model which is in line with these principles. Equally important is that you come up or you suggest an efficient and effective setup. We all know that these are big partnerships. Major KIC is composed often of 200-300 organizations. So it's very important to have an effective structure in terms of decision making, in terms of making sure that implementation runs smoothly. Also, still this first sub-criteria encompasses a geographical element. And again, I'm referring back a little bit to previous presentations on risk, for instance. So we would like to see a good spread of the proposed location of the different hubs and co-location centers, and also to demonstrate how these are integrated. So this is about the first sub-criteria. The second sub-criterion is about KIC business plan model and financial plan. You have heard it several times today, that financial sustainability is in the heart of our model. And over a certain time span, the KICs are supposed to become financially sustainable. So it means that EIT grant at one point should stop, and the KICs should, if the KIC is successful, then it should be able to operate further and finance knowledge sharing and integration activities further without EIT funding. Now, of course, this sounds a bit less relevant for a new KIC, which is just about to be established, but I would like to stress the importance to have this in the DNA from day one. So very important that you are coming up with a business plan and a financial plan, including a financial sustainability plan at the stage of the proposal, describing how you plan to generate funding from non-EIT sources on the mid to long term. Again, we will publish our innovation paper where you will see, or you will find a lot of practical advice and tips, both for governance, but also for different possible revenue streams. Equally important, so one thing is the revenue which is flowing back to the future KIC legal entity and collocation. Equally important that you can mobilize funding from partners and third parties to co-finance the projects that the KIC will be supporting. And last point under this criterion is the exploitation of intellectual property rights. Exploitation of intellectual property also shall be described under this block, how you will tackle that question.
Thank you, David. So the third set of criteria under the technical evaluation criteria consists of 3 sub-criterion. First and foremost, impact. You know very well that now by now EIT is an impact-driven organization. So basically on the societal challenge, first and foremost, we aim for achieving change and impact. And now the planned pan-European impact should be demonstrated by the proposals in line with the new EIT impact framework, which is aligned with the Horizon Europe in the EIT as well, but of course customized for the specific societal challenge and the sector here. And third pathway is about the educational impact to strengthen human capital in research and innovation, enhancing innovative and entrepreneur skills, both at individual but also at organizational level. Second sub-criterion under impact is about communications. Of course, the EIT has a common background for brand identity and visuals, but it's very important that the quality and the relevance of the future KIC's plans for communications is demonstrated, including the contribution to the EIT community and the brand identity as well. And last but not least, dissemination of results is extremely important. The quality and the relevance of dissemination plans for the KIC's results, including sharing good practices within, but also between and beyond the KICs and across the member states, regions, and institutions is extremely important, of course, provided this is public funding.
And finally, the last stage of the evaluation is a hearing with the EIT Governing Board. So first of all, if your application got to this stage, that's good news already, because that means that based on the technical evaluation, the application has reached a certain threshold. So the consortia affected will receive an invitation. You could consider this as a pitch. Maybe it's a bit longer than a normal pitch, so it's a long pitch when the representatives of the consortium should present to the EIT Governing Board their proposal, which will be assessed again under the same set of criteria. So excellence on the one hand, quality and efficiency of implementation on the other hand, and impact as the third block. But very important that this is not a reassessment, not a technical re-evaluation of the proposal which had already been assessed, but it's more to make a presentation under the excellence on the adaptability and suitability of the KIC to the proposed strategic approach. Then, of course, there may be questions based on the proposal. Then, under the implementation, very important to speak more practically about the feasibility of the operational model and the plan. Emphasize again on financial sustainability. It's very important, and equally important, first year after designation will be a startup phase. So it's key that there is a competent, strong interim management team in this interim period. And under impact, I would like to refer back to the impact framework, and one of our previous sessions was about impact. So I hope that it's now clear to all the participants at this presentation that impact is a very impact-driven model, and we have a very well structured impact framework. So it's very important to demonstrate how you, if you are selected, how you will achieve a sustainable systemic impact in line with the EIT's strategic objectives and impact framework. So this will be the subject of the hearing and presentation and questions from the board. And then we have 12 board members. We will have 15 board members. In the future, the EIT Governing Board members will score the hearing, and then this will be the basis of the designation. So the outcome of all the evaluation stages, that in particular the technical evaluation supported by the experts, as well as the hearing with the governing board, will result in a score, and then the proposal receiving the highest score will be designated as a new KIC. And then there will be a reserve list established. What will happen next? Maybe this will be subject of a different presentation. Very much in a nutshell, there's a first year, a startup year, which is about to get ready operationally, to get ready legally, to set up the KIC, and to prepare the first business plan. And this will be supported by a startup grant. I will stop here. And then maybe a few tips about how to access relevant information about the call.
Yes, thanks, David. So basically, for closing the presentation for today, before we take your questions, just a reminder that on our website, you can find all the information that we've mentioned, the KICs, rationale and timeline, the brochures. This is where we are also going to very, very soon publish the call criteria, the final version. This is where we are going to publish the EIT Innovation Model paper in September. This is where we have an FAQ page where we continuously keep the questions and answers up to date we are receiving, but you also can access the previous webinars that we have held. So this can be your central room for starting up, but also this is where we have the mentioned networking platform, which is a space for linking up with partners ahead of the call for proposals. It's already fully operational. You can also access this from the website. So starting here, you have the possibility to actually link up with the like-minded people and start working on the call text together. So with that, thank you very much. And we are looking forward to receiving some questions from you.
Thank you very much, Martin and David. If I can very briefly summarize, I would like to just recall the main milestones in terms of dates. So just for our audience, 26th of October, we expect to have the publication of the call text. So please be prepared, because then this signals the submission of the proposals that you will prepare. On the 24th of March, 2022, we have the closure of the call, and hopefully within June 2022, we'll have the winning consortium and the designation of the new KIC, EIT Culture Creativity. So now going to the questions from the audience, I would like to start with a question from Elizabeth Strasser, who is asking whether an institution can be part of several consortia applying, or they need to be just limited to one application.
I can take this. Yes, so the answer is yes. It's up to the legal entity in how many consortiums. So it's possible to be part of several consortia. And another related, often recurring question, whether KIC partners, who are the KIC partners today, can they apply? And again, the answer is yes. Either KIC partners or non-KIC partners in other KICs can form or can be members of a applying consortium.
Thank you, David. Martin, would you like to add something? Or we go with the next question?
Well, I just had to find the mute. It's indeed, as David said, these criteria are stemming from the Horizon Europe participation rules. And that's what we are, of course, supplying directly. Of course, probably it's very wise for each consortium members to make up their mind when joining a consortium.
Perfect. So let's continue. We have two questions from Francisca. And Francisca is saying that the role of companies is critical for the success of the EIT, and I fully agree with that. What kind of business model would be required for this new KIC, and what kind of relations will exist between third sector entities, such as NGOs, foundations, and more, and large companies and small, medium enterprises?
Maybe I can start, David, if you don't mind. So thank you for the question. Very good, relevant question indeed. Of course, this is where I would remind first and foremost about the EIT innovation model. So why we built the innovation model about the backbone. So the three type of actors around the knowledge triangle: education, research, and businesses. But I would also like to recall that why the EIT defines principles for the good governing of the KICs, which also includes balanced partnership models. All of the existing KICs already by now have partners from the fourth sector or fourth pillar already, if you like. And we believe that it's always the KICs are best actually positioned to decide to what extent, to what level they need to integrate such partners to their memberships. Of course, there are different sectors where involvement of cities, regions, local authorities may be super important. But of course, we trust that the consortia, again, respecting the balance which the EIT requires in the good governance principles, allow them for a very basically flexible approach to integrate partners from the fourth type or fourth pillar, if you will, as needed. We are not prescribing any hard ceilings or threshold for that.
Thank you, Martin. Perhaps here we can recall the example of another knowledge and innovation community, EIT Urban Mobility, where participation from cities is really strong. Another question from Francisca. So the culture and creative sector is very diverse, from cultural heritage to cinema, from architecture to performing arts. Indeed, actually this call probably covers around 8 different topics. So the question from Francisca is, what will be the glue that EIT would value for this new cake?
Maybe I start again, David, and you of course complement. So I would like to refer back to sub-criterion 1.1 in the technical evaluation criteria you have seen. So again, we agree, and if you look at the fact sheet we have presented and the description, indeed it's a very broad sector, and there are a lot of different potentially high impact fields within the sector. But the EIT model is about providing an operational autonomy for the knowledge and innovation communities in defining the highest impact areas within the strategic sectors. So again, the EIT is not predefining which of these elements should be featured most prominently within the strategy. Of course, that's going to be also evaluated and analyzed by the external independent experts, but also the governing board of the EIT. So the homework here is that the candidates are able to describe their strategy, convincing that the area, the foci area within the sector are providing the biggest societal impact to Europe.
Maybe if I may add, just to link the two questions from Francisca, I think they are very much interlinked at the end of the day, because one is about the diversity of the sector and the other one is about the kind of diversity or composition of the partnership, which can very well reflect or be matched with the diversity of the sector. Well, as Marton mentioned, NGOs, public sector, policymakers are present in other KICs. Maybe we haven't reacted on the component on the SMEs, which is also very important in our model. So usually the business side is represented both by large industries as well as SMEs. If you look into our programs, there's a very strong stream on SME support, and I believe that this sector particularly is a great, there's a great potential of SMEs in this sector. So I believe that it would be great to see also a large number of SMEs being part of Consortium from the beginning, and then of course later when a KIC expands.
Indeed, if I may, Katarina, I mean, we have seen this for previous calls as well and previous KICs as well, that participation of business partners is orchestral from the beginning and the key to success. On the other hand, in terms of the participation of SMEs, actually EIT is featuring better than the average of what Horizon 2020 could do. So a very substantial percentage of the business partners are from the SMEs, sorry.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's continue. We have another question from Julie Christiansen. So you mentioned before that the call will be open for organizations from EU member states, but also from Horizon Europe associated countries. Julie is starting another aspect, which is about international cooperation. And the question is, what about international cooperation and participation from relevant partners from non-associated countries? Will that be rewarded in any way?
Well, the rules in terms of rules for participation, we are fully aligned with Horizon Europe, Horizon 2020 in the past, now Horizon Europe. So the rules of participation are rather clear. So EU member states as well as associated countries are eligible for receiving grant support. Of course, third country entities might be eligible. However, that has to be justified and that has to be specifically approved. Now, when it comes to the application, it's important that we need at least minimum 3 EU member states represented. Usually, based on my experience now from the previous course, usually it's not a very hard threshold, because easily we have 3 member states, plus we can have any other associated countries. So I don't think that would cause any problems. But I think that's important. We receive, of course, a lot of questions also in the framework of the current KICS and implementation about associated countries. Maybe you all know, you all follow the news that many countries are reassociating now to Horizon Europe. What I have to emphasize here that the EIT applies exactly the same rules as Horizon Europe. There is no difference from that perspective.
Maybe just to add, so why the criteria is same as for Horizon Europe participation, I would probably recall the sub-criterion 1.3, which I've mentioned on the synergies. And this is exactly where also demonstrated added value and readiness to establish concrete synergies within EU member states, but also at other levels is taken into account. So eligibility to participate is one aspect. Eligibility for funding is another one here that David has also referred to.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we continue. Leticia Prados is asking something referring back to the criteria. I assume this is related also to the scoring that we didn't touch in detail. So the question is mainly concerns mainly the percentage approximately that the financial side and the governance side will receive in terms of scoring. But there is also a second question from Leticia, and this is how involved should all the partners be during the idea proposal part? So during the preparation of the proposal.
Maybe I take the first one, and David, I suggest you take the second one. Good ones again. So indeed, the reason we have not shown the percentages so far is that we wanted to wait for the governing board to finalize the criteria and the scoring. What we can say in advance is that in accordance with the EIT strategy, we are foreseeing that the excellence and the impact will feature with the biggest percentage, approximately 40 and 35% in the technical evaluation, and we foresee now roughly 25% for the operations and the KIC business model and financial plan. Again, as this has not been yet sealed by the governing board, we prefer not to put this yet on the slide, simply just to avoid eventual further confusion until these are approved and finalized by the governing board. But again, as it stands now, similarly to previous calls, we would put the most emphasis on excellence, the strategy, and then on the impact.
Thank you. David, would you like to complement with the second part?
Yeah, perhaps on the second part about the participation of consortium partners. Well, now, obviously, there will be some partners who are more active, for example, the consortium leader or the coordinator, that's obvious. And there will be maybe some core partners from the beginning. However, that's very important. This is also one of the evaluation criteria, the strengths and the excellence of the partnership. So we expect that those ones who are submitting a proposal, then it's clear what is the role, what is the added value of each and every consortium partner who is participating. So we expect, of course, the level of participation might be different, and it should be described in the proposal, but we expect that everyone who is part of the consortium will add value, and this will be clearly evident from the proposals.
Thank you. So we have two questions from Juan, and if you allow me, I will respond to the first one. So Juan is asking, how can the Yeti help interested parties find partners for consortia before applying for the program? So here I will dare to say that what we can do at our level to ensure fair treatment of all possible applicants, let's say, is to create the platform, the networking platform that we did launch in April. So what we want to invite you to do, Juan, you and your organization and no one else interested, please register to the platform and try to find relevant organizations that would like to invite you to the consortium, or you would like to invite them to work together. So you will find in our platform, in our website, the link to this networking platform. So my proposal would be to start from this first step. The second question is again from Juan and refers to, and it's very specific. So could a fintech startup focus on sustainable finance apply for the program? Martin, would you like to respond?
Well, of course, I sense that this is very specific, although the answer to this is probably very simple. As long as the eligibility criteria that we have referred to are fulfilled by this company, and then the answer would be yes.
Thank you very much. So one more question before wrapping up our session. We're very close to the end. Chris is asking something that is very much related to the role of the coordinator. So you mentioned before about several criteria that touch upon the role of the coordinator. So Chris' question is about considering the outlined criteria. Is it realistic to expect that small enterprises will take part? Are in large companies, higher education institutions, and research institutes exclusively the coordinators? And is the new KIC targeting less professionalized small entrepreneurs? So to make it a bit more concrete from my end, I would say the question is whether smaller entrepreneurs and companies can actually take the role of the coordinator, and beyond the role of the coordinator, can they really participate as partners in this call?
Look, I will answer, and then I can ask Martin to complement. Well, legally speaking, there are no limitations who can be the coordinator. We referred to the financial viability though, which is important, and also our financial capacity and operational capacity. In practice, I think it's important that a coordinator role, if I know that many of you have already participated at projects, at EU funding schemes. This comes also with a certain set of administrative tasks, coordination tasks, so there is important to have a capacity. However, the partnership or the proposal is not only about the coordinator, so I think we have to refer back to the evaluation criteria here, and to the, maybe under the excellence block, we had the sub-criterion on innovation potential, which is about a balanced, world-class, excellent partnership, a diverse partnership. And here I believe that even SMEs, smaller enterprises, can really add value to the proposal. So what I would like to say here, it's not only the not only the coordinator which will be assessed, but the whole partnership.
Thank you very much, David. One last question for each one of you. So the same question. I would really like you to share with us and with our audience one tip, one common mistake, or one, let's say, good practice that our future beneficiaries, future participants in this call should really take into account when preparing the proposal. What would you say?
One, that's difficult
Just
to
one
single
tip.
out.
Need you to highlight.
Okay. Yeah, of course, the simple one would be learn from others, but I would maybe just say, you know, strategy and impact, most important on the one hand. On the other hand, don't forget to plan for financial sustainability from the beginning.
Thank you, Martin. David.
Okay, maybe one tip. I've been at the EIT for a long time, so what is good with this model, that it's a very dynamic and it's a learning model. So don't be afraid making mistakes. However, a little bit referring to what Martin said, we have now 10 years of experience. So we are working a lot on the, for example, on this paper on our innovation model, where you will see you will find a lot of concrete tips and traps and pitfalls and maybe good advice. So please listen to the suggestions and come up with the best proposal.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you. As the least expert in this discussion, what I will say and really make a plea to our audience, please do not approach this proposal as a usual Horizon Europe proposal. It's not a call for grants. This is more than that. You really need to demonstrate strategic vision on how to solve, you know, the challenges of this particular sector. So many thanks to all of you. We can wrap up this session, but also the entire event. I want to thank everyone, those people that participate from the beginning of the day, more than 35 speakers that joined us, and for all the questions you raised. That was an amazing event for all of us here at the EIT, for our colleagues also in Braga and all around Europe, all the EIT innovation communities. You will find the recording for the event in the following days in our website in the dedicated session, but you will also find the slides also in YouTube. So if you missed something, please follow up. If you want to ask questions, if we didn't manage to address any of your questions, contact us in the form that is available on our website. And apart from that, I just want to share we're excited for this new 7-year period. I thank you and wish you a good afternoon. Goodbye.